All right, good evening, Pittsburgh Unified School District and Pittsburgh families. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for our presentation on how to support your child's phonemic awareness. My name is Leticia Preciado and I'm the Parent Engagement Coordinator here in Pittsburgh Unified School District. And joining me this evening is Ms. Marika Hines from our First 5 office here in Pittsburgh. Welcome, Marika.
Thank you. Welcome, guys.
And this evening, we're in a webinar format, so we're unable to see or hear you. But during the presentation, we're going to ask you several questions. We want to make it interactive as much as possible. So if we may ask you some questions, please feel free to place your responses in the chat. And then at the end, we'll have time for questions and answers also if you have some questions for us. And we are recording this evening's session, so you can refer to it later and feel free to share with other members in our community as well. All right, so let me go ahead and share my screen. Can you see the screen okay, Marika?
Yes.
Okay. Let me just put it into slideshow mode. Okay, it's a little better. Okay. Again, thank you so much for joining us this evening for our early literacy workshop with a specific focus on phonemic awareness. And there's several predictors known to predict reading achievement. And so they are oral language, alphabet awareness, phonemic awareness, and concepts about print and reading fluency. This week, we're going to focus specifically on phonemic awareness, the understanding that spoken words are made up of individual sounds. Before we do that, we're going to watch a short video that's about 5 minutes in length, and then we're going to discuss several of the strategies and techniques that they use in the video and add a few more as well that you can use at home with your child. So give me 1 second. Let me get to the video. Can you see the screen okay, Marika? Yes, okay. Yep. And at any time, please, participants, if you can't see the screen or the volume's not working, please let us know in the chat.
Reading is something we do every day. It is imperative that young learners understand that spoken words are made up of individual sounds. This is phonological awareness. Research has demonstrated that phonological awareness is a strong predictor of reading success. Let's look at some fun and important activities that can be tied to the books you'll read with your students. Before we begin, make sure that you have downloaded the handout for this session. Phonological awareness develops in a hierarchy from easiest to hardest. An easy level of phonological awareness is asking a student to decide if a spoken word is a long word or a short word. For example, hippopotamus is a long word. Cow is a short word. You can choose 6 to 8 words from the book you're reading.
So I'll say a word, and you're going to repeat that word. And you're going to show me if that word is a long word or a short word. Okay. You ready?
Yeah.
First word is watermelon.
Watermelon.
A long word or short word?
Long.
Long. Good. Next word, corn.
Corn.
Long or short?
Short.
Good job.
At the next level, students clap out and count the number of syllables in a spoken word.
I'll say a word, you repeat after me. Afterwards, we'll clap and count the syllables.
Okay.
All right. First word, blueberries.
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 Good job. That's 3 claps and 3 syllables.
Okay.
The next word, pear.
Pear. Pear.
Good job. How many claps?
1.
And how many syllables?
1.
Good job.
Now let's do a little rhyming. We'll start with odd one out. Choose 3 words, 2 that rhyme with each other and 1 that doesn't rhyme with either word. You say the words. Your student repeats the words and identifies the one that does not rhyme with the other two words.
So let's do a little rhyming. We're gonna play odd one out. Remember, you'll tell me the word that doesn't rhyme. Get ready. Bed, red, ran.
Ram.
Good job. The next one is peach, play, stay.
Peach.
Good job. Now let's try something a little harder. I'll say a word, you repeat it, and think of as many words as you can that rhyme with that word. Get ready. Repeat after me. Sit.
Sit. Hit. Bit. Pit. Sit.
And now for the quintessential phonological awareness activity. You will need a Say It, Move It card, which is a piece of paper with a square at the top and an arrow at the bottom.
Now, I'll say a word and you repeat it. We're going to say the word again slowly and move a counter for each sound in the word. So it's going to be my turn first, and then you'll do it.
Okay.
My turn. Sip. S. Eh. Sip. Your turn.
Sip.
Eh. What word?
Sip.
Good job.
The highest level of phonological awareness is deleting, adding, or changing sounds in spoken words. Say the word slip. Now say slip without s. What is the new word? Yes, lip. Say the word ape. Now say ape and add sh to the beginning. What is the new word? Yes, shape. Say the word cream. Now say cream and change k to d. What is the new word? Yes, dream.
Okay, now let's make some words. Here are some letters, and I'm gonna have you make some words using these letters.
Okay.
So find the letters that spell it. I-T. And what's that word?
It.
If that says it, make it say sit. Good, read that word.
Sit.
If that says sit, make it say pit. If that says pit, spell pat. Good, you used an A. So what's that word?
Pat.
You can see how fun phonological awareness can be and how important it is to reading success.
Let me go ahead and reshare my screen, just one moment. Okay, can you see the screen okay?
Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so you saw several activities in the video. One of the activities that she did is just singling out if a word is a long word or a short word. And you saw her use the word hippopotamus. So hippopotamus, that's a long word, or cow, that's a short word. So you can do that simple strategy when you're reading a book with your child. And especially if you come across words that are brand new, you can kind of stop and discuss, what does that word mean? And then is that a long word or a short word? You can even, depending on the age of your child, and you want to make sure that's definitely, depending on the age of your child and his or her ability, you can also add syllables to that. So you can do the long word and short word, and you can also do syllables like hippopotamus. So kind of move your hands for each syllable as you're saying it. And then that's another strategy that you can add along with the long word or short word. Then you saw that she did the clap and count game. And in this one, she used the word blueberries, and she said blueberries. 3 claps, 3 syllables. And then she did the word pear, pear, only 1 clap because there's only 1 syllable. So you can also do that again with, especially with words that you might come across while you're reading a book that might be new. You can say, hey, that's a new word we haven't heard before. Blueberries, let's clap it out. I wonder how many syllables it has. Blueberries. So you can do that. But you can also do either of these activities even without a book. When you're walking somewhere or driving somewhere, you can just think of words and say, I wonder how many syllables that word has, and then clap it out, and then think of another word and then clap out how many syllables are in that. So it doesn't necessarily have to be sitting down at a table. You can kind of just embed it into your daily routine. So it's not like another homework or that has to get done. You want it to be fun and just kind of embed it into your daily and weekly routine. All right, and you can also do that with names of people that you know. So like Marika, Ma-ri-ka, 3 claps. So you could do with their own name, their friend's name, their grandparents, their siblings. It's another great way to incorporate syllables with something, with names of people they already know. All right, and then with the game, how many words rhyme with? You can just simply think of a word, and then how many words can you think of that rhyme with that word? So if you give your child the word sit, see if how many words he or she can come up with, like sit, hit, bit, pit. You can say pan, and then pan, ran, fan, man. So you can do those type of games with your child just as you're going, walking somewhere or driving somewhere. You don't necessarily have to, again, do these sitting down. You want your child to have fun doing the activity, and you want to also embed it as a parent just into your daily routine. So there's a little bit of learning throughout the day as well. All right. And then this one was not in the video, but it's let's go on a rhyme hunt. So if you pre-registered for our early literacy workshops, you should have already received your packet and your books. If not, don't worry, at the end of this evening's presentation, we'll have a short survey. Please make sure to fill that out so we can get that to you. And so if you do have your packet already, there's several of these printed out for you so you can play this game at home with your child. These don't actually have the words, so you can add them. So like you'll see star, but there's no word underneath there. So you can write out the word star. And for each of those, so that way your child can see the visual to go with it along with the word. And so you can just do similar to how in the last week's session, we did a memory game with the alphabet letters. So like matching the uppercase A with the lowercase a. Very similar, except you're not going to put the cards face down. You're going to put them face up. And you don't want to have 50 cards out. You just want to start out with a small amount. So in this visual, you'll see there's just 6 cards. And you can have your child find which one is the match. And if your child's not reading, that you can still do this, especially that's why the visual really helps. So you can say, let's see, I see a pear. Which of these rhymes with pear? Let's see, pear, clock. Does that rhyme? No. How about pear, star? Does that rhyme? No. How about this one? Pear, sock. Does that rhyme? Nope. How about this one? Pear, car. No. How about this? How about this next one? Pear, bear. Hey, those rhyme. And you can point out the last part of the word so that your child can really see it. And especially if you write the word there, you can point out both end in E-A-R. And so also the link that's at the bottom of your screen right now has many printouts that you can print out for free. And we've included some of those in your packet, but there's many more that you can print out. All right, and then there was the odd one out game. And so in this one, you're going to give 3 or 4 rhyming words to see if your child can recognize which of those words does not rhyme. So in the example, like cat, sat, feel, and bat, you say the word and say which one doesn't rhyme, which one's the odd one out. And so your child has to really listen to the sounds to see which ones rhyme and which ones don't. If your child is younger, you may want to actually have the words printed out in front of him or her so that he or she can actually see the words and see the letters. And that may help them, especially to recognize that there's the ending sound. Give me 1 second, please. All right, the joys of a Zoom webinar, sometimes things happen, thank you. So in this example, cat, sat, feel, and bat. If you have the words right in front of your child, you can, and they're having a hard time with that activity, you can point out, well, let's look at them. Cat, sat, feel, bat. Let's look at how they end. Well, see, I see cat, and that ends with A-T. I see sat, that ends with A-T. I see feel, that ends with E-E-L, and I see bad, that ends with A-T, to help them realize that 3 of those words end in the same manner with A-T, and then that way they can figure it out, just kind of giving them a little hint. So there's lots of different rhyming cards as well in your packet if you've already received your packet, and you can do this type of game with the words or without the words, and with the word visuals. And depending on the age of your child, especially if your child is not yet reading, another great way to promote phonemic awareness is just using nursery rhymes. And we all know various nursery rhymes in different languages. So you can use those with your child. You can check out books at your local library, specifically having full of nursery rhymes. And last week we talked about, or in our last session, we talked about different types of intelligences and how your child best learns, and how each of us, both young students and adults, we all learn differently and we all have different strengths. And so if your child happens to have musical intelligence and loves music, again, that's a great way to teach new subjects. That's why you often see, most of us have probably learned the alphabet using the alphabet song. So you can also do rhyming with music. There's lots of different rhyming poems, rhyming songs that you can look up and have your child listen to those.
Okay, so another game is called the Say It, Move It game. And so with this, you're really using the phonemes or the sounds to kind of break apart, kind of break up the word in a way that the child can understand it. So with something like cat, you could have the letters available and you can, move them, start with the C and go, move the A, and then the T. And in that way, your child can see like the order of how the sounds are going to form the word. And it's,
Right.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry about that. I was just also going to point out that in the video you saw that she didn't use the little letter cards. They used pennies. That might be really abstract for young kids. So I would really recommend instead of the pennies, instead use the actual little letter tiles, and those are in your packet, so you can just cut them out. And then you can put a few extra, depending on the ability of your child and the age of your child, you can put, like say in this example where they're doing the word cat, you can put maybe 5 letters out if your child already knows his or her letters and the letter sounds. So then he has to really look at the letters and bring them down. But you don't want to put the whole alphabet there. But if you're depending on your child's ability, you may just want to only put out the letters that belong to that word. So in this example, in the word cat, you may only want to put out those 3 letters. That way your child specifically focuses on those 3 letters and the letter sounds they make. So you know your child the best as their parent, you know where their abilities are, so you can kind of adapt this game, this activity to the age and ability of your child.
Okay, and then this is another game, the Pound It Out game. So with this, you're really saying the sound of each letter as you pound it out. So is this a live video example here?
Yeah, I'm just gonna, give me 1 second and I'll share it. And it actually shows this game and one other one. Give me 1 second. Okay, let me know if you can hear and if you can hear the volume and see the screen.
We just are going to listen to a word and we're going to pound out that sound. So let's pick a word. What about the word cat? So we're going to say, let me show you first. Okay. Okay. So the word cat, you would say cat. Okay. Let's try another one. Can you help me with this one? What's a word? Maybe dog?
Dog.
Dog has 3 sounds in it, so let's see. Dog. Okay. What about you? Let's try the word map.
Map.
That's correct. All right. That is wonderful. What about the word tap?
Okay.
Say it loud.
Tap.
That is correct. Tap. Well, we also have another activity. I love activities that get kids moving. Brooks loves to move. So we're going to show you another activity that you could do, maybe at the playground with your class or on a time, maybe on a break, that also is exactly the same thing where you're saying a word and then you're going to break it down and you're going to say those sounds and let those kids really get connections with the sounds that they're hearing in the word, and then they can show you with their bodies. So let's show them. Ready? Let me give you a piece of chalk. All right, we're going to show you an activity where you can use your whole body to show phonemic awareness, where you can say a word and then show those sounds by jumping. We're going to use hula hoops behind us, and we're going to use sidewalk chalk. So this is a great activity for kids to get them moving, and that helps them remember things a little bit better whenever they can move and do things. So let's show our friends in class how we're going to do this, okay? I'm picking the word pig, so I'll show you the word pig. Come back here with me. So I'm going to say the word pig, and I go, huh, pig, guh, pig. So then I'm going to write it, so I'm going to say, huh, guh, pig, all right? Brooks, he's going to pick the word dad, okay? Can you say the word and then show us as you sound it out?
Dad.
Okay.
Dad. Dog.
What's the word?
Dad.
Okay. Can you write it? What's the sound for that letter?
D.
D. And what's the sound?
D.
Uh-huh. And what's the next letter?
A.
Uh-huh. What's the sound?
A.
Okay. What's the last letter?
D.
Okay. What's that sound?
D.
Dad. That's a great word, right? Thank you for helping me.
It's also a really good example of using multiple intelligences to really kind of hone in on the physical activity and the skills and take learning outside in a fun, creative way. Okay, so of course, another game that we saw in the video previously is the deleting or adding or changing game. Oh, 1 second. Okay, and so these are just some examples. And of course, you can teach your children, more about the sounds and putting together the words by letting them know how you can change or modify the words. So for example, a word like slip, you can practice with them by saying, let's delete the S, this sound. And then what do we have? Lip. Or we can also just how we can delete, we can also add. So we can take a word like ape, add sh sound. What word do we get then? Shape. We can also work with them on changing a letter. So you have a word like cream. What if we change the k sound to a d sound? And then again, then you'd have it change to dream and you can sound it out. And so of course with this, you would make modifications on the length of the words based on what's appropriate for your child's age. And again, just like you can delete and add, we can also work with changing letters. So in this example, you see 3 simple words, cat, bat, and sat. And you can hone in on the letters and those sounds and realize that they all have the same ending. But what happens if we, instead of saying cat, we change that to a B? What do we have? We have bat. What if we change that from a B sound to an S sound? We have sat. So it's another way for them to see the similar words and the similar sounds. And those are all words that rhyme. You can also do a find the letters that spell game. And this can be, you know, when you're looking at signs or when you're reading books, you can give them an example and you can start with a word as short as the word it. What do we need? What letters do we need to find to make it say sit? It. Oh, sounds like an S. We need to find an S. If it says sit, what do we need to make it say pit, it? And then we're looking for the P. If that says pit, can we make it say pat, at? So in that case, the ending is changed a little bit, but you can again find those letters on the page and have them practice putting those words together. Okay, so now I'm going to read a story. And our book tonight is Ada Twist, Scientist by Andrea Beatty, illustrated by David Roberts. Oh, we've got a fan of the book. What do we think this book is about, you guys? And feel free to put it in the chat. Oh, we have a friend who likes to pretend to be Ada. Okay, let's get into it. There's going to be a lot of rhyming, so let's put on our listening ears. Ada Marie, said not one word till the day she turned 3. She bounced in her crib and looked all around, observing the world, but not making a sound. She learned how to climb and made her big break with a trail of chaos left in her wake. She ran through the day, chasing each sound in sight, and didn't slow down till she conked out at night. Her parents were frazzled, but tried not to freak. As Ada grew bigger and still did not speak, clearly young Ada, with lots in her head, would have something to say when it ought to be said. You see Ada? That's just what happened when Ada turned 3. She tore through the house on a fact-finding spree and climbed up the clock just as high as she could. Her parents yelled, "Stop!" as all good parents would. Ada's chin quivered, but she did not cry. She took a deep breath and she simply asked, "Why?" What do we think is going to happen next? Ada's on top of the clock. And feel free to put it in the chat. Why does it tick? And why does it talk? Why don't we call it a granddaughter clock? Why are there pointy things stuck to a rose? Why are there hairs up inside of your nose? Ada's got a lot of questions. She started with why, and then what, how, and when. By bedtime, she came back to why once again. She drifted to sleep as her dazed parents smiled at the curious thoughts of the curious child who wanted to know what the world was about. They kissed her and whispered, "You'll figure it out." Her parents kept up with their high-flying kid, whose questions and chaos both grew as she did. Even Miss Greer found her hands were quite full when young Ada's chaos wreaked havoc at school. But this was clear about Miss Ada Twist. She had all the traits of a great scientist. Ada was busy that first day of spring, testing the sounds that make mockingbirds sing, when horrible stench whacked her right in the nose, a pungent aroma that curled up her toes. "Zowie," said Ada, which got her to thinking, what is the source of that terrible stinking? How does a nose know there's something to smell? And does it still stink if there's no nose to tell? She rattled off questions and tapped on her chin. She'd start at the start when she ought to begin. A mystery, a riddle, a puzzle, a quest. This was the moment that Ada loved best. Ada did research to learn all she could of smelling and smells, both stinky and good. One hypothesis Ada thought could be true. The terrible stink came from Dad's cabbage stew. She tested and tested, but soon Ada knew it was time to come up with hypothesis 2. That's a new word, hypothesis. It's kind of long, or is it long or short? The word hypothesis. Let's sound it out. Hypothesis. What do we think? Is it a long or short word? You can tell me in the chat. Long. Yeah, I think so. Seems pretty long, right? Great job, guys. Then Zowie, the stink struck again, just like that. Hypothesis 2, it's caused by the cat. That cat couldn't make such a stink on its own. It needed perfume and some fancy cologne. So young Ada tested. The test was a flop. She started again, but her parents yelled, "Stop!" Ada Marie, to the thinking chair now. By the time we count 3, enough, said her mother. That's it, said her dad. Her parents were frustrated, frazzled, and mad. Why? Ada questioned. Her mother said, no. What? Ada queried. Her father said, go. You've ruined our supper. You've made the cat stink. Enough with your questions. Now sit there and think. She looked at her parents. Her heart turned to goo. Poor Ada didn't know what to do. She sat all alone by herself in the hall. And Ada once more could say nothing at all. And so Ada sat, and she sat, and she sat, and she thought about science and Stu and the cat, and how her experiments made such a big mess. Does it have to be so? Is that part of success? Are messes a problem? And while she was thinking, what was the source of that terrible stinking? Ada Marie did what scientists do. She asked a small question, and then she asked two. And each of those led her to 3 questions more. And some of those questions resulted in 4. As Ada got thinking, she really dug in. She scribbled her questions and tapped on her chin. She started at why, and then what, how, and when. At the end of the hall, she reached why once again. Her parents calmed down and they came back to talk. They looked at the hallway and just had to gawk. No patch of bare paint could be seen on the wall. The thinking chair now was the great thinking wall. They watched their young daughter and sighed as they did. What would they do with this curious kid who wanted to know what the world was about? They smiled and they smiled and whispered, we'll figure it out. And that's what they did, because that's what you do. When your kid has a passion and heart that is true, they remade their world. Now they're all in the act of helping young Ada sort fiction from fact. She asks lots of questions. How could she resist? It's all in the heart of a young scientist. And as for the smell, what can Ada Twist do but learn all she can with her friends in grade 2? Will they discover the stink that curls toes? Well, that is the question, and someday, who knows? The end.
All right, thank you, Marika.
Thank you.
So each of the weeks we've been talking about using open-ended questions with our children when we're reading books. And so again, an open-ended question is a question that you ask where your child is more than likely going to answer with more than 1 or 2 words, because they have to really listen to the question, use critical thinking, and then come up with a response. And so it's different than a closed question. A closed question, an example of a closed question is something like, how old are you? 5, right? Versus if you ask, or what do you notice that's happening in the front cover of the book? And they can really look at the illustration and pay attention to all the different illustrations that are on there, and then come up with their response. And so this is a great way to build your child's oral language, have them practice their critical thinking, and also how books are structured, that there's a beginning, the middle, and the end. And so even by asking open-ended questions like, what was your favorite part in the beginning? What was your favorite part in the middle of the book? What was your favorite part at the end of the book? So at each session, we're practicing some open-ended questions. So now we're gonna take time to open up to a few different pages of the book, and then we'll ask you what open-ended question can you do there when you're reading the book with your child? And then feel free to place your answers in the chat.
Let's take a look. Okay, so I'm going to ask, what was your favorite part in the beginning of the story? And again, just feel free to put your child's answers in the chat. How curious she was. When Ada was very curious. Yep, thank you. When she climbed on top of the clock. Exactly, that's what we got pictured here. Yeah. Okay, let's try another one. What was your favorite part of the end of the book? The thinking wall. That's right, Ada made a thinking wall. What else did we see towards that we liked? Any other answers to favorite part of the end of the book? Trying to solve the problems. Yep, smelling her food in the jar. Yeah, those are all great answers. When Dad created the wall for her to draw, the problem solving. Yep. Right, so it sounds like that's what stuck out a lot to the little ones. The problem solving and the wall, instruments for science. The fact that her parents ended up helping her. That's definitely my favorite part too. The small machine. Yep. You see her smelling machine. That she tried it with her friends and it was funny. Yep. Those are some good ones. Would anybody like to try giving any examples of open-ended questions they could ask their kids when they read a story like this? Oh, that's fun. Tisu's saying her daughter tried it. So just any examples of any open-ended questions you would try? Why didn't she talk? Yeah, why didn't she talk? That's a good open-ended question. Be really interesting to hear how they understood that piece. Any other examples of open-ended questions you might ask when reading a story like this? Yeah, how can we learn from something that we don't know? How did they do the interacting together? Yeah, those are great questions. And it's always interesting to hear how they understood the story. And with those open-ended questions, you really get to hear their kind of thought process. Those are some good ones. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. One of the other things I wanted to point out is in this book, there's a lot of rhyming words on each page. And so as you go through the book, you can point that out in a couple of the pages. Or if you want, you can do an activity at the very end of the book to look and see, like pick a page and see how many rhyming words you can find. You want to point out one of those pages, Marika?
Okay, so let's see. I picked this page and I'm just going to read it really quickly again so we can see the ones that stick out. Ada did research to learn all she could of smelling and smells both stinky and good. So then in those you may stop and say, what rhymes? Could, good. One hypothesis Ada thought could be true. The terrible stink came from Dad's cabbage stew. True, stew. She tested and tested, but soon Ada knew it was time to come up with hypothesis 2. So that case, you may say new and 2. So those are just examples of things that rhyme. Oh, you're on mute.
Thank you. Before we end for this evening, I'm going to put a short questionnaire in the chat. We want to make sure that we'd like it if all of you can complete the short questionnaire, and then we'll do a short raffle with all the participants who complete the questionnaire. And it's also a good time if you have any questions for us, please feel free to place it in the chat.